Okay, looks like we have a good number. I'm going to get us started. Good morning. I'm Tiffany Yen Louie, Chief Marketing Officer here at World Trade Center, Utah. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for our weekly briefing. Appreciate everyone who joins us for this, and hopefully, it's some good, valuable resource and information for you. We're going to begin today with an update from Ben Collender, Chief of Staff at World Trade Center, Utah. He's going to run through any recent updates as well as our trade and our tariff dashboard. And then we're going to turn time over to our board director at World Trade Center Utah and CEO of Traeger Grills, Jeremy Andrus. He's going to share a little bit more about what Traeger is doing to navigate tariffs, and then more specifically, how to navigate the uncertainty and internally with team members and address team morale through some of these uncertain times. Just a quick reminder, this briefing is recorded. So if you have any questions, please use the Q&A function and we'll do our best to go through as many as possible. Ben, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Thanks, Tiffany. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, first off, as a reminder, here at World Trade Center Utah, we are constantly updating our tariff dashboard and making an effort to keep our business community up to date with all of these changes. We know they can be complex, and so the purpose of this webinar, as well as our dashboard, is to help break that down as easily as possible for our Utah businesses. So if you haven't been to our website before, here at the top, you can see it, and we're going to drop a link in the chat below as well. wtcutah.com/tariffs. You can go see all the latest and up-to-date information on tariffs, as well as links to useful resources such as the Friday webinars. So if you're here, of course, you know how to register, but if you want to easily share it, you can share our tariff dashboard page. So straight into updates. So as you can see, I'm going to click through these updates as we go along. And the first update we have this week is on, this came out just this morning, so we're going to click the announcement link. The Trump administration is announcing a framework has been signed with China on the tariff deal. So this is set to end a pause on August 12th if there is not a deal struck, but there seems to be progress this morning on having a framework signed. So all the details are in this article. One other piece to highlight is this comment made by Secretary Bessent. I think we will have trade wrapped up by Labor Day. So this is an important sort of timeline consideration for businesses thinking about, we often get conversations about the crystal ball and what this looks like and what the future is. And we're hearing from the administration that there's an anticipation of a Labor Day target. And that's also going to lead us into our next update, which is the global tariff. So if everyone recalls, on April 2nd, there was the Liberation Day and the announcement of the global tariffs. These have been something we're tracking quite closely right now. The only certain date we have is July 9th, and those tariffs are set to Essence comments. And this article I'm going to pull up once it loads. There was a press conference at the White House yesterday that President Trump announced, that the July 9th date is not a hard stop. And this coincides with potentially a Labor Day target timeline to conclude trade deals. So this includes not only the global tariffs, but one addition to the global tariffs that's been an ongoing negotiation with the EU in terms of the 50% EU tariff that is an escalation for the EU. So all of that is sort of that has been rolled up into the July 9th is now we're looking at potentially Labor Day, though we're still awaiting more details from the White House on what those timelines look like. So another couple of quick updates, the court cases. So we continue to monitor the court cases that are working their way through the process. We've got now three major cases that have gone to a federal court and could impact the tariffs. However, all of them are either in a stay or have a timeline for public comment or oral arguments that are at least a month away. So there's no imminent, close, sort of overnight announcement anticipated for any court case to disrupt the IEEPA tariffs. if there is something that comes up, it's likely going to be focused on the IEEPA tariffs, not the 232 or 301 tariffs that we've gone over in the past. So these are mainly the global tariffs and the China and EU tariffs that we've just covered. So again, nothing imminent on these court cases as we're seeing it now, but we'll continue to monitor and update the group. And finally, um, we have some updates on steel and aluminum. So as we could see from this right column right here, we've had quite a few updates on the steel and aluminum 232 tariffs. Um, there was another addition that we just wanted to make the group aware of that was effective on June 23rd that came out. And so again, one useful thing about the dashboard is you don't have to go find a primary source or do all these things. You can simply click a link here and find out really quickly what those amendments are. So we've got 8 of them right here: refrigerator, freezers, large dryers, washing machines, dishwashers, etc. Those are listed right here on the CSMS page that's linked on our tariff dashboard as well. So what we're trying to do with every one of these is break it down, make it as simple as possible for our businesses, and hopefully we've done that for you on steel and aluminum. So if you're in those industries, you should be aware that you can anticipate um, additional tariffs on those items listed. So with that, I'll pause. I don't know if we want to do, if we received anything or if we should just head straight over to Jeremy. I don't see any questions right now. So Jeremy,
Great. Am I live? Can you hear me?
you're good?
Perfect. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. I'll start by saying I'm a huge believer in WTC, not just because I'm a board member, but because we've had a chance at Traeger to partner with the organization to participate in trade missions, and we found a ton of value along the way. And I think this tariff landscape that we're going through has been a perfect moment for us to engage more and just really make sure that we're connected to some of these resources that Ben just talked through a little bit. Um, I'll start by saying this is an incredible moment that we're going through right now as in the business community, and it's globally incredible. It's breathtaking. If you think about the number of times we've used the word unprecedented, um, it truly is unprecedented. But I think what also is unprecedented, if we step back and think about the role that we play as leaders in a business, it's also an unprecedented moment to grow as a leader, to develop as an operator. It's like it's complexity and messiness that ultimately makes us better. So I think this is a unique moment in time. I'm going to share sort of three broad buckets of topics that are interrelated. The first is I just want to describe the state of play at Traeger, the context for what we're going through. I'll share a little bit about what we're doing about it. And then I'll end by sharing a handful of guiding principles that we sort of developed coming into this and that we're evolving, that I think real time are important guiding principles for us as leaders in thinking about how we run our business. So first of all, Traeger. We came into 2025 after having a couple of tough years. The post-pandemic world for us was challenging. And so we had really been rebuilding the base of our business, came into 2025 really uh, getting ready to swing big in terms of our investment in growth. And that was exciting for our business. We announced our third quarter earnings 24 hours after President Trump was elected. And it was the best quarter in 3.5 years that we'd had as a public company, and nobody cared. It was a bunch of analysts, equity analysts, and investors who just wanted to talk about tariffs. And so that was disappointing, but we knew something was coming. And between November and the beginning of the administration, we did a number of things to position us for this tariff landscape. I don't know that any of us might have anticipated just how just how dynamic the pace of change, the materiality of the quantum of the tariffs. And so we had made progress. When we got to April 2nd, to Liberation Day, we knew that this was an existential threat for us. Traeger it was and truly is at the bullseye of everything bad in global trade: high China exposure, high non-US steel consumption, and then layering on just dynamics of the category we play in, which is it's consumer discretionary. Interest rates drive demand. Housing relocations drive demand, and so we knew that there was work to do. What did we do about it? Well, we were prepared for the first 10% tariff that hit our business on February 4th. Then there was another 10% tariff, and then there was a 25% steel tariff. And then we saw these reciprocal tariffs. And so along the way, we had been progressively dialing back our spend, finding all discretionary areas to cut, T&E, sales and marketing spend, um, really hiring freezes. We were really trying to, without impacting our team, we were trying to find all of the opportunities to reduce spend, just to make sure that we could navigate the moment. April 2nd came and we went into survival mode. So we plan to do two reductions in force in our business, which I will say as a leader is it's one of the hardest things to do. It's one of the most disappointing things to have to do. But we step back and say we've got to survive to protect all of the team who stays. And so we did a large reduction in the U.S. We announced a couple of weeks ago that we're shutting down our office in the UK that has about 70 people in it. And it was important that we could really shore up our business, focusing first on liquidity, focusing on bank covenants, and ultimately ensuring that we could get beyond this moment and win as a business. It was sort of interesting to watch the landscape, and I don't know if you experienced this in your businesses, but the first couple of weeks of April felt dire. They truly felt dire. And I knew it wasn't just Traeger. There were a lot of businesses that might not have survived the moment. A couple of things happened that sort of changed my perspective on just the depth of the trough that we might go through. First is we saw the administration dial back some of the tariffs, and this is one of the challenging and dynamic elements of this moment. It's like they get dialed up aggressively, dialed back. Dates are set, uncertainty is created. But I think it was clear that this wasn't going to be the economic nuclear winter that it felt like the first week or two of April. The second thing that we began to see in our business as we maniacally track sell through at retail week by week is that the consumer was hanging in there. Consumer confidence had fallen off a cliff, but the consumer was continuing to buy. And so this was a really interesting moment for me as a leader when I realized that you get permission in a crisis moment to do bold things, and the permission's by the team. And as a leader, you don't need permission to do things, but to some extent you do if you want your people to follow you and if you want your people to understand where you're leading the business. And so I remember sitting with my team in late April and said, we've got to do these things still. We don't know where the cliff is, and so we need to act quickly and we need to act boldly. But we also have a moment that we can reposition elements of our business. And so we went through these two moments. We got there was actually the potential that we'd have to do more in early July, and fortunately we won't. But we got into mid-June after we'd already gone through these two very dramatic actions. And I will tell you, as a leader, it was so incredibly empowering to realize that although there were elements of this moment that we just have no control over, that we could dramatically reset parts of our business And so that we're not just navigating to survive the moment, but we're actually using this as an opportunity to leverage change and to reset our business and to do what we're in business to do, and that's to win long term. And I share that because it feels really discouraging when there's these tsunamis of uncontrollable sort of macro headwinds are coming. But then you step back and say, there's so much more that I can control. And we really, we're in this moment right now where, and I stood in front of my team a week ago and said, change is not over. We're going to survive this, but we're going to really lean into looking at our business, and it's a business that as entrepreneurs, we build brick by brick, and we build in this very intentional way, and we make a lot of good decisions, but we make some bad decisions along the way too. Um, and some of the decisions that we make were the right decisions for a moment in time. And sometimes one of the worst things that happens in business is that inertia sets in, and we keep doing the same things over and over because that's how we built it, as opposed to stepping back and really pressure testing, is that still the right way to do this? Is this still the right process? Is it still the right strategy? And so we actually brought in someone from the outside with this very well-intentioned desire to make sure that we are as lean, as streamlined as possible, that our strategy still makes sense. And it's really an effort that's driven by the team, but having an outside perspective has been very valuable. Um, so what does this mean for us? Um, let me share some of the guiding principles that we built heading into this moment, but that we're evolving as we go. And I think they're guiding principles that survive this moment. That we always step back and say, what are the guiding principles that are going to drive our decision making? And if those are true guiding principles, we will continue to lean into them. And there are moments in time where we decide to evolve them because we've learned along the way. So I'm going to share six things. First is control what you can. None of us can control the tariffs. Um, and it's frustrating when you don't own something, but it's affecting your business. It's empowering to recognize what you do control. In our case, we controlled geography of sourcing. And we don't know exactly where it's going to settle. We just knew we needed to accelerate our exit from China. We control pricing. We sat and we did a lot of analysis on how we can manage higher prices without materially affecting unit volumes. And we sat with our retailers and we built a pricing strategy together. We control OpEx. We control our ability to streamline our organization, to find opportunities to integrate AI into our organization. It is a buzzword, but there was a necessity to move more quickly. And we're finding some unbelievable opportunities. And we are not AI experts, but we're finding some incredible opportunities to do that. So, number one, control what you can. Number two, we've thought a lot about how to balance the pace of decision making with the uncertainty. I am a big believer you can't ever have all of the information. If you wait to have all of the information, you will be left behind. Moving quickly and moving boldly has always been a principle that has benefited decisions I've made, and the opposite has also been true. I think there's also this moment in time where we need to make sure that we have conviction where these sands are going to settle. And, for example, we know we need to leave China from a sourcing perspective. That is a very obvious mandate. But what we don't know is how deeply we should be investing in Asia versus the US, Asia versus Mexico. And so in the interim, we're very focused on sourcing in Vietnam, in Thailand. We know on a relative basis that those places are safe, but we're not making deep capital investments anywhere. We're trying to optimize for the moment. We may ultimately bring some of our manufacturing back to the US, but certain things would have to hold true for that to make sense. Tariffs would have to stay at certain levels. Steel capacity production here would have to reach certain levels. And so we're trying to move boldly, but recognize where there are still shifting plates in ensuring that we have conviction before we make decisions that are very expensive to unwind. Number three, one of my favorite values, cultural values in our business, is called stand in the fire. And stand in the fire is this belief that our businesses came because of innovation and because of disruption. We did something differently or something different than competition. That's what put us on the map. But sometimes this is the most uncomfortable thing to continue to do. We've built an asset. It has value. It's valuable to us, and we don't want to change it. We become risk averse. And so standing in the fire for us right now is really stepping back and questioning why we do what we do. Some cases we say this is still the right opportunity. I will tell you, more than any moment in my career, the crisis that started April 2nd has led to the best sort of disruptive in a positive way thought process and decision making I've ever seen in a business. Number four, communicate with team. Um, it's I stand in front of our team every week. We have a noon lunch meeting for the entire company. We cook. Some people dial in who are remote around the world. It's called Good Day Traeger, and this is where I have really honest, really open conversation. And you know what? Sometimes really awkward conversation. And it's me speaking to 500 people, and sometimes it's blank stares or it's fear. But I've learned that I shouldn't be dissuaded from being really honest, from communicating very deliberately, from communicating very frequently. Um, and I think the value of that, even when not all the information is known, and there are moments where I stand up and say, here's what I know, here's what I don't know, here's what we're going to do. Um, when there's a lack of communication, people tend to connect dots. It's just the dots that shouldn't be connected. A lack of trust. We sort of assume the worst. This voice in the back of our mind starts saying, Jeremy's not being honest with us. We're not like something big is about to happen. And I'll tell you, I stood in front of my team, and actually I'll segue to the fifth to the fifth guiding principle, which is preach as a leader that we need to embrace change as a team. And I stood in front of my team a week ago and I said, we've gone through this hard moment, but we're not done. And I talked about the need to continue to drive change. And I realized as I was 20 minutes in this presentation, I was seeing fear in the eyes of my team as I'm looking out into the company. And I said, can I just clarify? There is no big announcement coming. There is no shoe that's dropping in this meeting. What I'm trying to suggest is that we need to continue to lean into change as a team. And the best ideas are not going to come from the CEO's office or the executive team office. We need change agents in every seat in this business. It is very clear at the end of the day, we're going to need an incredible team to drive this business. AI is not going to be running this business 6 or 12 months from now, but we need the team to come with ideas, to have skin in the game. And if you are reluctant to change, if protecting what you do and how you do it is the most important thing for you, that is the most uncertain place to be. That is the least value add place you can be. And so if you show up and you try and create value every day, and if you are open-minded and willing to help drive change, you have a place in this business. And then six, and this is like, I'll say save the best for last. This is a hard moment economically, and it's not just hard when your team walks into the walls of your business. It's actually hard when they leave. It's hard when they go home and they look at their rent check and they look at the cost of groceries, or they go to Cafe Rio and buy a chicken salad for $13.86, which blew my mind last week. And it's the uncertainty of jobs going away, and all of these things are heavy. And so I believe the last thing that we want to do is add to the heaviness of what people are feeling. And yet we need them to perform. And so I think it's a moment where we can develop our greatest leadership qualities, which is really inspiring people to be great. And that doesn't take away the uncertainty of the moment. But when we push the pressure down that we're feeling in the business, we as leaders are built for that pressure. We've got a lot of ownership and we've got skin in the game, and not everyone's built for that. And the weight gets heavier and heavier as it gets pushed down through the organization. I think if our team can really embrace this notion that adversity strengthens us as individuals, adversity strengthens us as a team, and we actually have this incredibly exhilarating moment where we see greatness in individual in ourselves and we see it in the team. I think that's the best way to drive performance in a business. That's doubling down on people and culture when things are messy is so much more effective than pounding our fist and demanding results. So I'm probably over time. I'm going to stop there. Ben, Tiffany, do we have time for a couple of questions? How do you want to manage?
I don't see any
Well,
questions just yet, but Tiffany, if I can, I have a
please
question.
do.
Um, Jeremy, your team is so great and ahead in many ways about tariffs. We talk with Phil on a regular basis, who covers some of our blind sides sometimes. And one of the biggest concerns we hear from businesses is like, what's the crystal ball? I call it. What's the future look like? And I'm hearing these principles and hearing this positive message. A lot of businesses are on their heels and being reactive and like looking for that answer that just, as you're saying, doesn't exist. How do you balance getting as much of the crystal ball as you can, and how are you guys doing that versus some of these principles you're talking about, which are, I have to say, is such a great message for businesses because it actually feels like something you can do, not something you have to wait for, right? How do you
So
pair that crystal ball uh
yeah,
temptation?
so yeah, it's a great question. So one of the things that we're doing more now is we're actually doing more leadership meetings. We call it uh, it's it's our strategy team, TSR, and we're getting this team together more often, and we're doing it because there's information bubbling up from a lot of different places. In some cases, Ben, as you walk through some of the new information, that's new over the last 24 hours. I think it's important that there's a process to aggregate and share information because having the most timely information that's rule number one. But that doesn't plug all of the gaps. And one of the things that I've just found incredibly effective, recognizing that all of the information still leaves us with gaps, is to ensure that we're building a mindset of playing offense versus playing defense. Playing defense is uncomfortable. And when we step back and feel like this is happening to us, we actually act and make decisions very differently than when we say everybody, this is a level playing field. All of our competition is going through the same thing. And this mindset of we don't need to make tariffs go away. We need to navigate this better than our competition. And winning is always relative. And I'm seeing more and more that this belief that we're on offense is empowering to people. And then we start talking about winning as opposed to talking about survival. And I think one of the mindsets is a deer in the headlights, and we just don't make decisions when we're feeling fear. But the mindset of we're going on offense and we're going to figure out how to do this better than our competition, I just find it to be liberating, not just at a leadership level, but across the organization.
Well, thank you so much, Jeremy. Thank you, Ben, today too. This has been really great information. Great to hear from you. We appreciate the candor really more than anything because it's a good reminder, serves as a good reminder to other businesses that they're not at this alone. Other businesses are experiencing in different sizes and different industries. And so it's great to have you be able to come and share the guiding principles and what you're currently navigating, experiencing. So we really appreciate it. Just a matter of a couple of housekeeping items. A reminder that we will not have a briefing next Friday, July 5th. So everyone have a great 4th. We will reconvene for the weekly briefings on July 11th. Please keep an eye on World Trade Center's communication channels, look at our emails, as well as our social media channels, just to follow updates as we provide some additional information along the way. If you have any follow-up questions, please send us an email. If you're interested in more events, please visit our website, wtcutah.com/events. That'll get dropped in. Actually, I had one question just pop up. Handling transition of sourcing material. Do we have a couple minutes that you want to answer this question, Jeremy?
Sure.
Let's see. How are you handling the transition of sourcing material from offshore to domestic suppliers? Is there resistance?
Handling transition. You know what? We're actually we reviewed we reviewed a spreadsheet a couple of days ago that had every SKU in every category. And I would say that's the moment that I realized our business is actually more complicated than I'd thought. We sort of think about the 20% of SKUs that drive 80% of revenue, but there's a lot more going on. So I'd say, first of all, it starts with like a real organization of what do we have, and then it's a real prioritization of what moves the needle and what's sort of the long tail of decisions that we make later. But we've really tried to prioritize what do we have to move quickly. Um, I would say there's been no resistance at a team level, but there are dynamics to consider. We have an office of 60 people in Shanghai, and we're talking about exiting China. And so we've got to figure out how do we align with this team and let them know we will continue to have presence there, but whether we are doing business in China or in Vietnam or in Thailand, we need to not fear the outcome, but be agnostic of any other implications to do the right thing for the business. We are finding our suppliers to be more accommodating than I might have guessed, and so we're not feeling resistance there. The real resistance for us is in it's really in the quality of the information and to know how quickly to move sourcing across certain geographies. But otherwise, it's we've got a team that's willing to move as fast as they can, and we're very integrated with our retailers downstream as well to make sure that as we make these decisions, they have the capability and they're ready to support where product is coming from.
Thank you, Jeremy. And thanks for taking the extra couple of minutes at the conclusion of this to answer that question. I think that's really helpful as well for everyone to hear. But everyone have a great day. Thanks again for attending, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.